Alright, what is going on everybody? In today's video, I'll be showing you guys the best controller and graphics settings to use here in Season 6 of Cold War. So you guys are always asking me how my game looks like it does and how I can aim so well, and this video is going to cover everything. And most importantly, I will be explaining why I use each setting that I do and what advantages that you get from using them. But real quick, before we get into settings, if you guys aren't already subscribed to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button and turning on post notifications so you get notified when I post the best class setups every single day here for Cold War. And if you haven't already liked the video, please consider hitting that like button because it helps the video get pushed out to more people, and I'd really appreciate it. Anyways, getting the settings here, we're going to start off on the graphics tab here. For the display mode, we're going to play on full screen. Make sure you're just playing on full screen. Monitor, you're going to have that set at 1. Refresh rate, make sure you have that whatever the maximum refresh rate is for your monitor. Gameplay VSync disabled. Menu VSync disabled. And video reflex low latency, you're going to want that on enabled normal. Render resolution, make sure you have that on 100. Display resolution is going to be 1920 by 1080. Aspect ratio is going to be on automatic. For the colorblind modes here, you guys are always asking me how my enemies' names are green. It's going to be right here. You're going to go to colorblind mode. You're going to put your colorblind type on Tritanopia. I put my color on this light blue, ally color on this darker blue, enemy color right here. This is where you unlock this lime green setting here. Normally, if you're not on Tritanopia, you will not have this lime green setting. So make sure you have that on Tritanopia. Put the enemy color on that lime green, and then I have my party color on this darker blue. For the field of view here, I play on 120. I think 120 is overall the best field of view here because you have the most visibility. You can have the best movement possible, and you're going to have the least amount of visible recoil whatsoever. So if it seems like I always have no recoil in my videos, it's because I play on 120 FOV, so I recommend playing on 120 FOV here. For the ADS field of view here, make sure you're playing on affected. This is going to make it look like you have absolutely zero recoil. It's going to put your gun farther away from the screen. If you play on independent, your gun's going to be very close. You're not going to want that. Make sure you have ADS field of view on affected here. For vehicle aiming field of view, this really doesn't matter. Just make sure you have this on affected. Brightness, I play on 60. I just think 60 is the best brightness setting here. For the frame rate limit here, I have this on custom. I play 144, 144, and 60. For the details and textures here, if you play on PC, I'm just going to go through these real quick. If you play on console, you can just skip past this. So for texture quality, I play a medium, model quality low, special effects quality medium, screen space reflection is disabled, object view distance is medium, water tessellation disabled, volumetric lighting is low, shadow quality low, dynamic shadows on all. You're going to want to make sure you have dynamic shadows on all. Don't disable this just because everything else is disabled. Shadows are actually very important in Cold War. Like if you're in Nuketown, you'll be able to see shadows before you see people in the bus area. So make sure your dynamic shadows is always on all. Special effects shadows is on disabled. Weapon shadow, make sure you have this disabled. Ray tracing, you're not going to want any of this. Make sure all three of these are disabled. NVIDIA DLSS is obviously going to be disabled. Anti-aliasing quality is going to be disabled. Ambient occlusion quality is also going to be disabled. Motion blur, make sure you don't have motion blur on. Motion blur just ruins your game. Make sure that's disabled. Motion blur quality obviously is going to be on low. We're not going to be using it, so that setting is not going to matter. Subsurface scattering is also going to be disabled. Order independent transparency is going to be disabled. Getting the audio settings here for the master volume, I play on 100. Music volume, I have this set to 0 because when you play this game a lot, it just gets annoying. You can set this to whatever you want, but personally, I play on 0. Sound effects volume, you're going to want that at 100%. Dialogue volume, I have this set at 75%. Honestly, 100% seems too loud because when the announcer's talking in the game. Dialogue volume, this is going to be the dialogue volume. For the dialogue volume here, this is going to be what the character's saying, what the announcer says in the game. I have this set at 75%. 100% was kind of too loud for me. Sometimes you couldn't hear the enemy's footsteps. So I have this set at 75%. Cinematics volume, I have it at 0%. Audio presets, I use Treyarch Mix. This is just overall what I can hear the footsteps the best with. I recommend using Treyarch Mix here. Hitmarker sound effects, I have this on enabled. Select Hitmarker sound effect, I have this on classic. Now getting the controller settings here, obviously I do play on controller, so my input device is going to be on controller. My horizontal and vertical 6 sensitivity, I have this both set at 6. Really anywhere between 5 and 7, I would say are your perfect sensitivities. If you go anywhere above 7, it's going to be really hard to snap onto players. You're going to get kind of wild with your aim, especially if you're playing against good players. They will completely destroy you if you're playing on above 7 and you're not accurate with it. Anywhere below 5, like 3 or 4, is going to be way too slow. Make sure you're using anywhere between 5 and 7, like I said, because if you're using 3 or 4, you're not going to be able to track enemies at those long ranges. They're going to be able to just run past you without you even knowing. And make sure you're not using a different horizontal and vertical stick sensitivity number here. I see a lot of people running like 6.7 or 7.6. You're going to want to use the same exact number here, like I'm using 6.6. And that's mainly because if you're using 2 different numbers, it's going to be very inconsistent whether you're looking up and down trying to track enemies. So just make sure you stick with the same number here. For ADS stick sensitivity low zoom here, I recommend using anywhere between 0.9 and 1. If you're using below that, it's going to be very slow and it's going to be hard to track on and snap onto different enemies. If you play above 1, it's going to be very hard to keep track on your enemies and your aim's going to get really wild. But I recommend using 1 here. If you can master 1, then I think you can be the best to your potential. For the ADS stick sensitivity high zoom here, I run 1.2. Really anywhere between 1.0 and 1.3. Those are going to be your sweet spots. You're not going to go anywhere above 1.3 or anywhere below 1. For the button layout here, I play on default. I do not flip the triggers and bumpers. The invert vertical look is obviously disabled. If you play on inverted, then I don't know what's wrong with you. And response curve type, make sure you have this on dynamic. You're going to want to master dynamic. Do not play standard. Make sure you have this set on dynamic because it's going to make you the most precise and have the best aim possible once you get it down. Controller vibration, I play on disabled. If you play enabled, that's fine, but disabled is going to help you aim at those long ranges. Like if your controller's shaking, it's going to kind of mess up with your aim sometimes. Trigger haptics, I have that on disabled. Target aim assist, obviously enabled. Target aim assist mode, I have this on standard. Make sure you're running this on standard. Do not get this confused with the aim response curve type, which is going to be on dynamic. Make sure you have the target aim assist mode on standard. ADS aim assist, obviously enabled. Airborne mantle behavior is going to be on manual. Grounded mantle behavior is going to be on press. Aimed on sight behavior is going to be hold. Steady aim behavior is going to be on hold. Arm behavior is going to be apply all. Attack vehicle control mode, aim base. For the advanced tab here, I play on the stick layout is going to be on default. The ADS stick swap is going to be disabled. For your dead zone settings here, I'd highly recommend looking up a video on how to find the perfect dead zone for your controller here. My controller, it's 6.6, and make sure your left stick maximum input threshold and right stick maximum input threshold is at 99. Trigger dead zone sensitivity, I have this at 0.01. Auto move forward disabled. Auto sprint is disabled. Sprint behavior is go to. Sprint cancels reload disabled. Parachute auto deploy enabled. Equipment behavior is hold. Interact and reload behavior is tap to reload. So yeah, those are all my controller settings and graphics settings here for Season 6 of Cold War. If you guys have any questions, comment them down below. If I missed something, make sure to comment down below. I'll answer all the questions, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.